Anime Declassified is a podcast run by the Anime Secrets website. Check us out at animesecrets.org for more anime, video game, tokusatsu content. Remember to follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts today.
Hey guys, Joshua Seth here, voice of Ty on Digimon, and you're listening to Anime Declassified.
All right, welcome back everyone to another episode of the Anime Declassified podcast, where we are covering episodes 4, 5, and 6 of Cyberpunk Edgerunners. Joining me in this recording once again, the leader of our wonderful channel, the Rizwan. How you doing, Riz?
I'm doing. I just finished watching the last episode 6, so I'm doing.
Yeah, quite a doozy of the episodes here. 4, 5, and 6. It's
just nonstop.
It is. It is.
I'm sitting there watching them. It's like, so where's the break? And I finished the episode. I'm like, oh, this might be the break. I don't know.
Absolutely.
Depends how episode 7 begins.
No. Episode 7 will lay it down. We'll scale back a little bit. Back a little bit.
Okay, good. Because you need a little bit of scale back after this insanity.
Yeah. No. You get some breathing room. You'll get some breathing room in the next episode.
Excellent.
Some hilarity, but before we kind of jump into why you're feeling this way after episode 6, let's rewind it back and go into episode 4. And before we get into episode 4, a little recap. David, life goes to heck. Lots of bad things happen to him. This is like a very, very quick recap. Puts on a suit, can jump through time. Turns out suit belonged to somebody else, and now he joined the crew of that somebody else after pulling off a somewhat successful job at the end of episode 3. And, we hop into episode 4 where they're trying to where the gang led by Maine, they're trying to basically track the corporate executive that they were trying to track in the last. That was part of their job, and the data that they had captured, unfortunately, was null and void because he did indeed kind of change up his route. So that kind of leads to David going like, "Hey, I want another job. I want more training," and kind of picks up from there. Episode 4 was definitely used more of a kind of like getting to know some of the gang a bit more episode.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of the episode is really going into giving David some reps as a cyber, an edgerunner, I guess the right word, and letting him kind of get used to the fact of, hey, I'm working for this group. I have this newfound family, and the characters are very interesting, very different than what you'd normally think.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it felt like a very dysfunctional family with lots and lots of unresolved tension among them.
Yeah, definitely. We see that with the brother-sister duo, which, funny story. I guess I should ask you, like, of the characters you've kind of been introduced to so far, like, what do you really think of them? Like, we have Maine, the leader of the group. We have Dorio, his girlfriend, also surrogate mother of the group. Kiwi, which is the hacker, which we'll get to know her a little bit more in the next episode. Lucy, of course. David, Pilar, the guy with the mechanical hands, and Rebecca, the very loud mouth, if you will.
So it depends on which one we're talking about. So going down the list, I think Maine and Lucy are probably my 2 favorites for different reasons. Maine, to me, feels like classic gangster.
Mm-hmm.
He's just there to handle business, and he's gruff. He's down to business, but he's also much more empathetic than I expected from him towards David and towards the crew. Which I didn't expect. I thought he'd be more of an asshole, not really a team player, if you may.
Mm-hmm.
So that was nice for him. Lucy, I gotta admit, man, that girl be awesome. Like, she just has a great personality. She has a lot of unresolved issues, and you can sense the trauma like oozing off of her.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that about her. Um, Not a big fan of Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
Really speaking, I hate to be the dick in the room, but I was kind of glad that um,
Right.
the
When we get ahead, right? When we get to that
yeah
part.
yeah I was kind of like, okay, I'm okay with this. I'm not upset.
Honestly, kind of one that you're not shocked when that scene happened, just given
Yeah.
like his kind of smack talking personality, a little bit creepy, and then you have Rebecca, who is just like, I'll shoot, no think sometimes.
Yeah, and that's never a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is funny because the little bit of meddling that Netflix, or not Netflix, but that CD Projekt Red got into with Trigger was actually over Rebecca.
The what was?
So they're, for the most part, CD Projekt Red just like let CD Projekt Red is the developer that made the Cyberpunk
Okay.
2077 game. They just let, for the most part, Trigger kind of do what they want, not what they wanted, but like let them handle the story and everything. But CD Projekt Red had like certain characters that they had created. Rebecca was actually not one of them. She was created by Trigger itself, and she was the one character that CD Projekt Red was like, "Hey, we're gonna have to ask you guys to cut her," and Trigger said, "No, she stays."
I I didn't know that. I can kind of see why they might want her out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's a lot of things about her character. I overall enjoyed her character for just her hot-headedness and in the moment kind of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
But I can definitely feel some more um, sensitive topics being brought up against her and her character design and her artwork.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see why people may not be a big fan of it and may not have wanted her in it. So yeah, no, I see both sides of that coin. On one hand, Trigger sitting there like, no, we're gonna keep her. This is what we do in Japan. But the American side probably is more like, this is a lawsuit waiting to happen.
Right. And so what I really liked about this episode is, it kind of lets you in on the lives of the crew a little bit more.
Yeah.
And, kind of, little speed running through, kind of like David getting used to the jobs, hanging out with them. You even see a cameo in there from one of the major characters from the from Cyberpunk 2077 in there, just like a brief 5-second cameo.
Yeah.
The part where David brings in Rebecca into the bar, and you see the old lady laughing. She's a major character in the Cyberpunk game.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
her cameo, when I saw her, I was like, oh, that's actually pretty neat, pretty good.
That
And
had
then,
no impact on me.
right. But this is where you kind of, for a lot of people, you're seeing a lot of the
Yeah. It's the
a lot of
world
the synergy.
building.
Yep. A lot of the world building and a lot of the locations just like kept popping out to
Yeah.
me when I was watching it because I had played the game. I'm like, oh man, it's nice to see these things when they're not crashing my console. And
Yeah. I imagine that's a very nice thing, to be honest.
it was really nice, but yeah, so we see David starting to get some training by Lucy, and we also see we see Maine kind of trying to push David towards her.
Yeah. I didn't know what to make of that in the beginning. I didn't know if that was like a in-universe cultural thing where the Edgerunners kind of pair off in that way, or is that just another way for him to gain reps in a different part of the job where you're meant to have what seems to be, from Maine's point of view, like a meaningless relationship, just something to meet your your physical urges and that's about it. Because that's the way he seemed to bring it off. Like, hey, you and Hurst hook up because you have needs. He has needs. Make it happen.
I don't think it was made like that. I think it was more like friend to friend going like, dude, we all see what you think about her. Like,
Oh yeah,
why aren't you giving it a shot? Why aren't you going for that? Because it's also part of Maine kind of telling him like, you just can't be thinking about the job all the time. You need to, you're still living. So like you see someone that you want to pursue.
yeah.
Because we saw Maine and Dorio having no problems expressing their feelings for each other in this episode.
Yeah, no, they were pretty good.
They're like, we do not care if you see us. This is happening at this bar.
I will say, as soon as that scene finished, I had a phone call from a friend, and I was just in the moment of like, okay, that scene was a bit more than we needed as an audience. So I had to vent that out for a few minutes to my friend and be like, look, man, I'm watching Cyberpunk Edgerunner. I'm on episode 4, and this scene just happened, and I was not a fan of that level of explicit graphic type of intimacy. Like, I'm okay with the the kissing and the makeout sessions if that's something that happens, but this felt wrong.
Yeah, it was a little over exaggerated for sure.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I thought it's kind of weird that we had this much. It's like they overdid it for the impact effect of it all,
Right. And as kind of the episode continues on, they're walking back, and to your point about Pilar, he talked a little too much smack, and the messing with someone, if he doesn't mess with, he's probably still alive. And just the suddenness of that whenever the cyberpsycho just puts a gun through Pilar's head was just like, I got taken aback. They previewed it at the beginning of the episode where David's just like almost zoned out, just seeing blood, and he's seeing the crew like running, but you don't know towards what. And at that point, you see like the cyberpsycho just blew off Pilar's head.
Yeah, and I mean, to that point I made earlier, Pilar was not a character I really liked. Rebecca, on the other hand, I thought was a fine character, but Pilar, no, man. He was just, he didn't really have any worth. And I think that's because, if I remember correctly, we didn't meet Pilar until this episode.
We saw him briefly in episode 3, but he didn't really
he had like a cameo, like he wasn't really there, like So yeah, no, I don't count his appearance in episode 3 to be anything impactful enough for me to be like, okay, I've seen him before. So there wasn't really much of like a connection between me and Pilar. Like, I didn't really vibe with him. I didn't really like him. So when the thing happened to him where he died, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Carry on.
Yeah, to me it was just
plot device.
Not so much the plot device, but like the suddenness of it, like instant, not anything drawn out. You don't even see the guy pull out the gun. You just see his brains get splattered everywhere.
Well, that's because that drunk guy or cyberpsychosis guy, whatever you want to call it, he had enhancements that made him super fast, like Dave, and you generally won't be able to see that. So we're able to see David's movement in the anime because he's the main protagonist, and you have to be given some kind of help to understand what's going on. But this one-off rando, I mean, no, you don't need that. So yeah, it's sudden. It came out of left field, but it also helps to show the super speed in real time. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and we get this like nice action sequence in this episode where everyone's kind of like scattered because it's a cyber cycle. You can't really predict them because they're unpredictable. You don't know what they're packing, what else they can do, and they actually have to knock out Rebecca because, if she kept going the way she was going, like she was going to be done for.
Oh yeah, 100%. I thought she was gonna die next, and I was like, I don't know if I want you to die yet.
Right, and so seeing that kind of teamwork kind of go through, and you see that it's not easy, and even for someone as strong as Maine, like his gear just starts malfunctioning a little bit in there. David has to be kind of knocked back into the zone in order to basically survive, and it was an intense fight scene.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing with that scene with Maine, it's a foreshadowing of things that come in the future that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. But
Mm-hmm.
To the audience, or at least to me, I don't know how it was for you, but when I saw it, I was like, wait, why is he malfunctioning? Has he been malfunctioning all this time and I haven't noticed? Am I just a bad watcher? What's going on here? But as you get further into it, I think this is like an episode set up to give us, the audience, an opportunity to understand cyberpsychosis early,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can get the impact of it later when we get to the point where I'm just sitting here like, so that happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my vague booking for this episode. But yeah, no, I think
Right.
really strong episode with.
Well, we're still not quite done with the episode. We can't kind of skip over the biggest development of the episode that happens at the end, which is where they're after they get done killing the cyber psycho, they kind of tell the others, "Hey, go get Lucy some help. She suffered some injuries during that. We'll stay back here. We'll just tell the cops cyber psycho, and that's it."
Yeah.
Cyber psycho's common occurrence in Night City, and after Lucy kind of gets checked out, like we actually see the relationship between the two, which they'd been pushing at the beginning of the episode, actually take place, which I thought that was actually like the highlight of the episode for me, was how they're just kind of expressing themselves.
I thought that was in episode 5. That's why I was skipping over it. But
No. That happens at the end of this episode.
Yeah, they all run together when he bends them.
You're right.
But no, I thought that was a nice little payoff, because from the get-go, from I think episode 1, when he meets Lucy, you can tell that there's a certain Sarge, if you may, like there's something going on there. So I think that was a good moment for them to finally get a chance to do something, because judging from 5 and 6, there ain't no time.
Right, and you kind of learn like why Lucy's also a little bit distant, because she's seen them come and go, and she doesn't want that for David, because for the most part he's kind of just innocent, thrown into this wild world. And we find out that she didn't lie to him in the second episode. Like, I thought she did. Like, she was just using him. She's like, no, I really do want to go to the moon. I want to escape Night City. And David makes the promise, and we get that nice kiss between them at the end of the episode, where he promises that he'll take her to the moon.
Yeah, that was definitely a good moment for them, and it was very fitting that they used the moon again, because that's kind of like the first place that they bonded.
Mm-hmm.
So I think really good world building. I think we got a nice payoff at the end here. So yeah, I think we're making pretty awesome progress in terms of, like, at least for me, who has never played the game, understand the world.
Right.
Because in the first 3 episodes, I think it was more about trying to understand who David was and get a basic idea. Mm-hmm. But here we're getting more of a day in the life of what these people go through.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, like you said, cyberpsychosis is a norm. So they were right to kind of explain it here, even if it's also like a foreshadowing for events to come in the future.
Right. And so we end with the big moment, and then we move on to the next episode, where they're still a bit disturbed by the death, but they still got jobs to do, and so uh, we had a really funny moment where Maine is talking to David about like, hey, they said you could use the hands, and David's like, I don't want these, man, not my style, essentially. And so we kind of learn more about their target, and the rest of the crew actually starts to find out more about David, because I didn't catch this when I was watching the anime, but yeah, no, David never told them that he was going to the Arasaka Academy, that he was a former student, that he knew some of the people connected to the job that they were doing. So when they find out, Maine is like a bit shocked. And then he's like, okay, but that makes sense why Gloria was always coming to us for jobs.
See, I thought it was kind of a given because Maine knew his mom.
Mm-hmm.
So I incorrectly assumed that Maine knew why the mom was taking jobs and doing everything she did was to support David going to that school. So that was my reason for thinking, oh, okay, this makes sense why they would know. But then I was like, oh, I guess nobody really knows David's past. That's interesting. Mm-hmm. And it kind of fits with something that Maine says much later on, which I think is still apt to mention over here, that he doesn't judge people based on their past. He only looks at them for what they can do now and what they've done for him since he met them. Mm-hmm. So to him, he had no reason to even care where David came from, aside from the fact that his mom was a former colleague. Mm-hmm. Colleague being a very loose word, in my opinion. But
right.
I think, it makes sense to me.
Right. And so from kind of talking about, his time at the academy, they saw him lay out the bully, and how that was something that was in the executive's mind. And then they see something with the initials JK, and, David allegedly doesn't know, but we all know he does. He figures out he's able to tell them who JK is, which we meet another antagonist in this episode, Jimmy Kurosaki, who sets up those brain dances, which are basically like, what's the best way to put them? Did you put it in there?
I don't have a good word for it, honestly.
Right, but basically high intensity VR video editor.
Yeah.
And so from there, they kind of make a plan. We kidnap the guy who gives them these snuff films. We can get to the executive.
Yeah.
And that doesn't quite go. That doesn't quite go to plan, because Jimmy's probably been through a couple of kidnapping attempts, as we saw.
He's got backup plans to the backup plans, which are pretty entertaining in itself. Like, I was kind of glad he did, because I was like, okay, this is way too easy if you can just kidnap him and that's it.
Oh, I knew something was about to go wrong. I'm like, okay, this is too easy. There's got to be something, because I don't remember in the game if there was a character like Jimmy. The closest thing I can think of is... No, I can't think if there's anyone like that. But whenever it came to kind of meeting up with people like that, they always had something for you. And so when I saw the EMP blast, I'm like, people use that against me a couple times. That sucked.
Yeah, definitely.
And so that one blast is able incapacitates most of the people. Maine is out, Kiwi's out, David is out, and Jimmy kidnaps David. And so Lucy has the "not my man" look, where they're like, yeah, we're gonna go rescue him. And so this is kind of how you can tell most of the group has bonded, because most of the time you would think a group of punks like this would just be like, well, he's screwed, on to the next one, but not these guys.
And that comes back to Maine. Well, like I was saying in the first episode, the first one of Dispatch, I mean, he cares about the people in his group. I mean, I know he has a very special, intimate relationship with Dorio, but he, even for David, he definitely seems to care about David's well-being, and he wants David to do well, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's very apt, and it's a very nice quality to see in a character like Maine, to see, okay, he's not just a thug who's going to be like, oh, well, we lost him, move on. Now he's going to be like, no, I need to get my men back. We all go home, or none of us go home.
Mm-hmm. And so while the others are out and Lucy and Dorio go, we get a decent chase sequence. Not as good as the one that was in the third episode, but still decently animated.
Yeah.
But they saved the crazy animation for the brain dance scene, which I don't know about you, but like rewatching it, it was still disturbing.
Yeah. No, it was definitely next level disturbing to me.
And to kind of showcase how messed up the world of Cyberpunk is, like this is stuff that high-end executives and people with money, people who are just sick in the head, just like pay to experience.
Yeah.
And this guy is doing that to David over and over again, like trying to break him down, because Jimmy's able to deduce, like, yeah, this thing you implanted, this was James Norris, the soldier, and you get to experience his last day on Earth over and over and over again. Yeah, I don't know how many rounds I would last experiencing that.
No, I wouldn't. I don't think I could do it.
No, and so we get a pretty intense showdown between the two ladies and Jimmy, and he summons drones, which, again, as someone who's played the game, drones are so freaking annoying, man. And so seeing them again, I'm like, God, not these jerks.
So, okay, slight tangent, because I'm curious on if you've ever done this before, played this before.
Mm-hmm.
So, are you into tabletop RPGs at all?
Not so much. I've never really been into them. Like, I've played D&D with a couple friends.
Okay.
On occasion, but like never set up a consistent tabletop group.
So I was in a fairly consistent tabletop group for about at least 2.5 years. And if my friends who I play with are ever listening to this, they can definitely correct me, because I don't remember the exact length of time. But the game that we played was called Shadowrun, which is another cyberpunk setting. And the similarities in the scene here with the drone usage by Jimmy reminded me a lot of my character in Shadowrun, because I played a rigger, which is a guy who is a drone builder. He's a tech guy. And I just thought it was really cool the way that they kind of built it up.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it's nice to see the variety of the tech upgrades in the show. It's not just like the brute muscle and guns that Maine has, or like the super speed that David has, but you get to see a nice variety of everything. Because during my playthrough of Cyberpunk, I was mainly a hacker type character. So every time I would see Lucy pull up the game, I'm like, or like the little hacking things, I'm like, yeah, this is good memories, because when you're at a lower level, that thing goes by fast. But once you get your tech level up high, like it slows down and you're able to crack them. And that's how I would get through most of the drones. I would just hack them and shut them down. So seeing elements from the game incorporated into the anime, especially how this episode did it, was good to see. And so you seeing the variety of it in there, there's a little bit for whatever play style you decided to go to in the game. And I believe hacking is also kind of a prominent thing in the actual Cyberpunk tabletop game as well.
Yeah. And I do like that we can see the elements of second classing in the anime.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's in the game or not, but definitely Lucy's not a one-trick pony where she's only good at hacking. She's good at field operative work as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that they're not all one thing per se.
Mm-hmm.
At least Lucy. I mean, Maine is really just a brute force. I'm a hit you kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But he can hit you really hard.
oh, he can hit you and make you go down for the count, and you may not even get it from the count.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, I like that we have versatility in the character's biography and what they can do.
Right, and because Lucy was not only able to take down the drones, because thankfully David was able to recover from the mind trickery, to put it PG. He was able to distract the drones with kind of his speed while she was able to hack them down. And it was at that point that Jimmy's like, all right, I see I'm boned. I surrender. And so during that, he also, as they're kind of planning to kidnap Tanaka, the executive, Jimmy also kind of gives a warning to David about, how do you think it is that I'm able to get all these things? And that, again, kind of foreshadowing what's going to happen in the next episode as well. He's like, all of the people who get chromed up a lot eventually will succumb to the cyberpsychosis.
Yeah.
It's like pretty good foreshadowing and kind of like the major theme of these 3 episodes. And
it's interesting to me, at least, that, David lives in this world and he's joined a crew, but he doesn't seem interested in just gearing up more and more. He's simply content with what he's already been given. He's not really looking to add like other stuff. I mean, I know he added some like artificial lungs, I think it was, in this episode or the episode prior.
Yeah, so to kind of help out with his endurance, added some lungs, and I believe May also recommended to him that he get some enhancements on his hands to be able to punch better.
Yeah.
Because this is going back to the 3rd episode where he had like one of the gang members speed, but he just was still mostly natural at that point, so couldn't really finish him off.
Yeah.
And yeah, we find out more later on about what David wants. I don't know if it was in this one or the next episode where he told Maine, like, if you ever die, I call dibs on your guns. I'm pretty sure it was the next episode.
I think so.
And so, kind of a warning. And so, they lured the executive to the studio with Jimmy saying, like, oh, I have a new special product for you, essentially. But the executive kind of had an idea of what was going to happen. And, he thinks he has a bit of an edge on them, but, they took some precaution, were able to set up a jammer in the area so his thing wouldn't go off. But, he's still, the executive has access to stuff, shoots out a frick ton of needles at them when he doesn't want to go with them. And Maine is just able to knock him out. One punch.
Yeah.
But, as always, things don't quite end up that going their way because Jimmy was hit by the needle. And all of the time he was just standing there and he allowed himself to get hit. And you find out he has insurance.
Of course he does. And this goes back to my rant in the first podcast about the insurance and the premium level and how if you pay enough money, you can get the best of the best.
Yep. And sure enough, because he died, everyone's like, "You're kidding me! This guy had platinum insurance." Like they thought, "Oh, there's no way, right?" Nope, there was a way.
Yeah.
And so they have to take Tanaka with them and kind of break off. But as David's like kind of leaving, he's like thinking about like the words that Jimmy told him, like anyone who gets chromed up without thinking of the consequence somehow always ended up in my brain dances.
And that's very big foreshadowing for episode 6.
Mm-hmm. So overall, this one little less action than some of the other ones, but definitely building up. This one was definitely building up more stakes, but
I think there was a fair amount of action, to be fair, though. I don't think it was like that devoid of action.
No, it wasn't like all story, very little action, but there wasn't as much as like in the last episode or this upcoming one here, episode 6.
Yeah.
There was a lot.
It was a long 20 minutes of just suspense and wonder and just like the hell's gonna happen.
Yeah. Now this episode was really kind of showcased like not just the dangers of what these guys put in their bodies, but also kind of just like it. I think it really drove home the point to the audience that no matter what character you think is safe, nobody is safe in this show.
Yeah, now nobody's ever going to be safe in this, especially in the line of work that they're in right now as Edgerunner.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think the lower caste people, like the students that are going to that school, or people that are like, teachers or whatever, I think they're okay in terms of like work hazard, but the Edgerunners especially are never safe.
Mm-hmm. And so this kind of episode starts off with a bit of a flashback. We see Maine like chroming his body out, where he looks like a athletic but normal person out in the desert, and he's just staring out blankly. And then he's gets pulled back from the daydream because Dorio's like trying to talk to him, and we see like the food that he has in his hand, he's like shaking and he can't even like hold on to it. And it's giving the hint to people like, hey, something's happening to him.
Yeah, and at that moment I was like, okay, he is not going to be around much longer now, is he?
Right, because not only is he like not being able to hold anything, he's like way more aggressive than he normally was at all. Like the calmer leadership guy that he was just is gone in this episode. He's erratic, quick to anger. They're trying to hack into Tanaka's mind, but they're all on edge because the feds are probably going to be coming on to them fairly soon. If they lose this jammer, like the insurance people will be able to track them. So they're trying to get information from him to give to their fixer. And, it feels like they're time constrained. So you add kind of that tension on there to Maine's kind of deteriorating mind. He has an outburst and knocks out Kiwi like it was nothing, and like without hesitation too. And when he kind of snaps out of the psychosis, like he's like, wait, what happened? He didn't even know he attacked her.
He had zero idea. He was like, hey, what happened, guys? And everyone's looking at him like, go get some mental help. You need it.
Right. And
I think it was Lucy who said that, actually.
Was either Lucy? No, it was. I know Dorio said you need to you need to take the chrome out of you to cure the nerves.
No, Lucy is the one that said, "Go get your head checked out."
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was a thing.
Right. And so they call Lucy, who I think had left at this point, and she's reluctant to kind of go in there. And again, we kind of see the kind of relationship that her and David have at this point, because she's like, I need you to tell me I can do this. Like getting that self-assurance from him. And, you know, she's like, you have to be with me. Maine has to be out. Like, cannot be in the same room. So they kind of set the terms of Lucy wanting, or what, how Lucy will go and help, but like these things have to happen. And they agree. And, you know, Maine almost has another psychotic or another cyberpsychosis episode, but Dorio's able to break him out of it. But, you know, they get the call from their fixer Faraday, and, you know, pressure's starting to mount. And then Tanaka, it's at this point. Well, I guess before we get to the next part about it, do you think you would have been able to handle a high pressure situation like this one, Rose?
Hell no. Not this stake. I mean, I would have done what Lucy said and just run and never come back. You know, like cut your losses, be done. They're on their own. Because there's no saving these people at this point.
Right.
What about you?
Oh, heck no.
I'm glad we're on the same page. If you answered yes, you could have handled it. I'm like, okay.
No.
I've employed a serial killer.
No, I would have been freaking out as well, because, you know, it's one thing that when you're taking on like petty criminals, but when you're basically kidnapping an executive from the corporation that like runs the city, like doesn't matter how good of a hacker you are or a netrunner you are or whatever, they will find you. And so as they kind of go through that, Lucy's discovering more stuff. They finally get she's finally getting the valuable information from him, but she also discovers information on David. You know, this is at this point where she starts to learn more and more about David and how he's not just like a punk kid. He was a kid who did have a future that was just kind of dragged down there. And while she's getting that information, Tanaka's trying to do what suits you best, trying to be like, no, I'm on your side. I like you. No. All big misunderstanding to David, and, you know, it causes David to hesitate.
Now, would you have taken Tanaka's deal in David's position?
Probably not. But I'm fortunate to not be in David's position.
Yeah, because I was wondering myself, what would I do in that case? Because on one hand, even if I sold out my friends and, you know, had a good life on paper, it would still not be guaranteed like a safe life or like a prosperous one in terms of like fulfillment. On the other hand, you know, standing with your friends means almost certain death. If not today, then tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So,
right.
Yeah.
Right. And this hesitation for David to put him out, you know, causes Dorio and Maine to discover that he's still awake, and they both like are freaking out because this guy's supposed to be out. We can't have him awake. And before like they're able to put him out, he just the system that he's hooked onto, that Lucy's also getting information from, is just basically short circuits out, and it electrocutes Tanaka and almost kills Lucy. As you're talking about, like how this episode's tension just starts to grow and grow the more we get into it. And yeah, and so by the time they're able to rescue Lucy and try to reanimate Tanaka, they find out that the jammer they were using to suppress the notification is out, so they have to start getting out of there because Trauma Team is on their way.
Damn insurance people.
Yep, the insurance people. And so as they're kind of planning how they're going to get their getaway, David moves Lucy over to the car, and she tries to get out of it, or trying to get them out by saying he didn't have anything for us. But David realizes, like, you're kind of lying.
Yeah.
And he's like, what did you find out? And while that's going on, Maine and Doria are trying to move Tanaka, who is somewhat alive right now. But unfortunately, insurance people and the cops caught up to them.
Yeah.
And
things start to get really nary at this point.
And this is the part of the episode where it is just time to get punched in the gut, man.
It was so. This next scene is just so heart-wrenching to me.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Miguel.
No, I was gonna say, no, I'll let you share your thoughts on this next part of the scene, because I want to hear your thoughts.
The best way to describe what happens next is, up until this point, David is kind of still naive and innocent to this world. And as things kind of pan out, you see his innocence strip away completely. Nothing left of it. Nothing left of that naivety. Because on one hand, you got Lucy telling him, get out of here, screw it, it's not worth it, we got to save ourselves. But David wants to save Maine because he doesn't want Maine to, get cyberpsychosis. He thinks he can help him because he still has that naivety in him. So he tells him. Yeah, he thinks he can save him, so he's like, I'm going to do what I can. He goes, he tells Lucy to keep the car running. He gets there just in time to see Dorio dying.
Oh, no, like, by that point, Dorio had already been dead.
Yeah, but I mean, he discovers Dorio's dead. Maine's gone full cyberpsychosis. And he realizes, hey, Maine is the one to kill Dorio. But David is still believing in the goodness of Maine and wants to help him. Right. And it's a slow realization, I think, in his mind of going from I can help him to I gotta get out of here.
Well, that and like the more, because the final part of this episode is just like heart-wrenching because Maine is succumbing to the cyberpsychosis. He's not even aware of what's going on around him. Dorio's not only trying to help him break out of it, but she's also trying to live. And when she finally goes to try to help snap him out of it again, that's when she gets shot by the police. And the one thing that was still holding kind of Maine's sanity there is gone, and he just has this like creepy killer smile. He's like, is this my fault? And he just starts massacring both the trauma team and the cops.
Yeah.
And uses Tanaka's use of Tanaka as both a shield and a weapon was disturbing. And by the time
that was just intense, seeing Tanaka's body just in pieces. Oh my goodness! I was just like, okay, hold up, what are we doing here?
Yeah, the way Maine is just butchering everyone, and David's in the car. And Lucy are hearing the gunfire. They're hearing the yells, and David does the whole "tell me I can do this," rescue them, and Lucy doesn't want him to go because like that's what David was trying to do, was basically a suicide mission at that point. And by the time David is, I don't remember if Lucy tells him he can do it, but he goes on ahead.
He doesn't.
And when he finally gets up to Maine, trauma team basically said, our client's dead. We don't have to be here anymore. This is your problem to the police. And they do the smart thing and just leave. And at this point we get Max Stack. We saw them in episode 1 when they took down the cyberpsycho who had the unit that David has. They're on their way, and Maine still a little bit in cyberpsychosis, but knows what's going to happen to him. And so he, whatever ammo they had left, he basically built a funeral pyre for Dorio. And he's like, if I'm going to die, I'm at least going to go out with a bang. And so David is there with Maine, and he's like trying to tell him, like, no, we can do this. We can fight together. We can get out of here. And Maine tells him, like, no, like, this is the end of the road for me, kid. And we kind of get, the thing that was alluded to earlier. I don't know if it was this episode or the prior episode where David's like, when you die, I'm going to get your arms. And, oh, man. He goes out with a bang. David grabs the arms, is able to get to the car. And, we get that look of just like pure defeat and sadness on David's face, which I don't know if you ever saw that image used as a meme anywhere, but it was a pretty popular one for a couple of weeks for sure.
I might have, but I don't remember it right now.
Yeah, I'll post it somewhere for you. But yeah, we see that, and you know what? The episode ends right there.
Yeah. And I think not the most interesting, because there's a lot to unpack here, obviously, but one of the things that I took away from that is David is, like I said, he lost a lot of the naivety and innocence throughout these couple of scenes. And he's starting to realize this is a dog-eat-dog world, I think, because he takes the arms and he goes with them. I mean, that's just something that I don't think he would have done previously before he lost all the hope and innocence of the world. He would have died in that moment, but he figured out a way to, like, okay, I'm going to at least salvage what I can from this.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen next.
4 episodes left.
Yeah. Because, I mean, at this point, we only have Lucy and David left from the group.
Lucy, David, Falco, he hasn't really talked at all. He's just been in the background.
Yeah, Falco doesn't really have a role yet. He's just kind of a driver, I think.
And Kiwi are the 4 people who are still left alive from the crew.
Kiwi's still alive?
Yeah, she didn't die. She just got knocked out by Maine.
I thought she died at the end of that. Oh.
No, she lived. So yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so 4 people left: David, Lucy, Rebecca, and Kiwi. 4 episodes remain. So yeah, your overall thoughts on these last batch of episodes?
Oh, intense is a good word.
Yeah.
I definitely like the story. I like the direction we're going in terms of, like, the world building, the stakes, character development, all really good. The one thing I'm going to knock this on a little bit is the excessive, gratuitous scenes of adult content, and in the way that they portray it. It just felt a little too overdone. Yeah. And I think my exact words from earlier and specific description of Dorio and main scene in the beginning that we talked about briefly, that felt ripped out of a hentai. And not a good one either. Not that there's many that I consider good, but
yeah, definitely a bit wild. They don't hold back in terms of the adult content or the nudity. Yeah, there's a couple moments in this episode where, I'm on a plane and people are a little close to me, so I have to move the phone sideways.
Oh my god.
Thankfully, I was like I was at the back of the plane, so there's no one behind me, so I could just like tilt the phone sideways for people not to see that full blown.
Yeah, because do you really want to explain some of the things that you watched? I don't think you want to.
Exactly. No. Another great batches of episodes. We've got 4 episodes left. I recommend this to you, Riz. Like, I watched them all like in a row and like really, really because I'll definitely be interested in hearing your thoughts on the finale for sure.
I mean, this can only keep going up at this point. I mean, there's nothing to really, I don't think anyway, to tear it down.
Yeah, for sure. No. But yeah, that'll wrap up our reviews here for episodes 4, 5, and 6 of Cyberpunk Edgerunners. Check out our channel for a bunch of other reviews that are going up around this time. And yeah, Riz, sign us out.
All right. Well, I'm Riz, and that's Miguel. We're Anime Secrets, Anime Declassified podcast. Stay tuned for more content, and we'll see y'all next time.